Welcome to Agents Growth Academy, folks. I am your headmaster, Jim Schubert. I am unbelievably excited to welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Nicholas Ayers today. He's going to talk about how you can achieve your agency's definition of success, and especially when it comes to using super sexy modern tools and efficiencies to do that. And I guess before we get started, I did want to let folks know that this is something that we've got going on. By the time this is released, we're probably going to be wrapping up the fundraising, but something near and dear to my heart is someone that we had on recently, actually, Clay Snellings, talking about the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. He's a fellow agency owner here in Atlanta, Georgia, and he is on a mission to cure this incurable disease, currently incurable, called cystic fibrosis. His daughter has it. And there is a clock that's kind of ticking here in terms of life expectancy. Thank God she is in her 20s. And about 20 years ago, the life expectancy was about 30. Now it's about 50. So we're doing some good work, but we need your help. So if you guys go to agentsgrowthacademy.com/cure-CF, I and Clay would be eternally grateful for your support, should you choose to show some monetary support. And if not, there's other ways you can get involved. But agentsgrowthacademy.com/cure-CF, and check out Clay's episode. I don't remember the number right now, but if you go into your favorite podcast app, you can look up Clay Snellings on Agents Growth Academy. Folks, Nicholas Ayers has worked in the insurance industry since 2005, the year my son was born. I'm excited about that. He started as a sales producer back then. In 2012, he opened his first scratch independent agency. In 2018, he left that agency and started over again, because why not? And he launched his second scratch agency then. This time, he went completely digital with a 23-state operation and relied on his digital marketing prowess to generate leads and customers. I love that. In 2019, Nicholas joined an insurtech startup called Better Agency as its co-founder and chief marketing officer. Better Agency is the first sales-driven AMS and uses policy downloads to trigger hundreds of automation campaigns for sales, service, claims, and renewals. That sounds unbelievably sexy to me, and I'm not kidding. Nicholas's passions and skills center around marketing, technology, automation, and insurance agency operations. Nicholas, what is up, my brother?
What's going on, Jim? If this insurance thing doesn't work out for you, this podcast thing doesn't work out for you, I'd love to hire you just to come and do reads for Better Agency. That was phenomenal.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I enjoy standing and delivering. Actually, one thing I've never done, even though I'm a leader of a larger insurance agency, I've never done public speaking before outside of my own agency, like getting
Really?
from my own agency.
I bet you'd be really good at it. I think you've come up. I think you'd be well at it.
Thank you, man. That is one of my goals for this year. One of the reasons I'm currently writing a book. So we'll see how that goes. But thanks, man. I appreciate that. I will take that compliment. Dude, I want to pay you a compliment too. Congratulations, because I just saw on LinkedIn that one of our past podcast guests, Grant Botma, just decided, and one of your best friends, as I understand it, decided to sell Neoteric Agent to Better Agency. Can you tell us about that? And congratulations, man.
Thank you. It's exciting for us because it's our first acquisition, and the reason why it excites me a little bit is there's a little bit of a nuance to it. So ever since we started Better Agency, and really since there's been a little bit more heavier M&A activity in the insurance technology space, people always ask us, are you guys just trying to get to a certain level and then sell to the oligarchs? Is pretty much how I will describe them. And I say, and I'm very honest with it, I'm very transparent with it. I say, look, I'm not going to do this forever. I'm not going to die in this chair. we're going to eventually sell in the same way that you're going to eventually sell your agency. We don't know who, we don't know when, we don't know where, but we're not eternal beings. Yeah. And that's the best way I can answer it, because that's really all that I the best that I can answer it. And so when we were able to make an acquisition, we felt kind of, we felt a little good about ourselves because we said, we're going from this place where people just think we're trying to get acquired to now we are now trying to look for opportunities to acquire. And
Yeah.
so it made total sense for us. We have a mission, we have a purpose, I tend to go into what feels like pitch mode because it's very automatic. So at any point, you tell
Yeah.
me, Nick, not a commercial. You're
Okay.
not going to offend me. But we have this dream. We have this dream of one platform, one browser. We're really trying
Yeah.
to unify the technology that agents use, whether you're small, large, medium, doesn't matter where you're at. We want to make that easier for independent agents, and we're all about the independent agent. And so for us, when this opportunity sort of landed in our laps and Grant approached us, he said, hey, I've got no shortage of suitors that want to buy this. I really like what you guys are doing. Would you guys like to entertain this? And we went back and talked to our team. We talked to our board. We made a decision. We said, absolutely, this aligns with our mission of really trying to help agents have and achieve greater levels of agency success. And so it was great that we were able to do that. Grant is one of my very best friends. He's a person that if you were to call me up anywhere in the world and said, I need you, I'd be on a plane or in a car and I'd be there. That's how highly I think of him
Yeah.
and what he does. And so to be able to do that, to feel like he entrusted us with that was humbling. It was great.
Yeah. He's a fantastic guy. I know that just from having him on the podcast, but also now digging into his book is
Yeah.
just absolutely phenomenal.
Which book are you on?
The work-life harmony. Work-life
Yeah.
harmony.
Yeah.
Man. And I was telling you off air, I just got back from a retreat from one of our other podcast guests, Tommy Breedlove, and his book, Legendary, he hosts these retreats called Legendary Life Retreats. And one of the big topics we were talking about was work-life harmony, not
Mm.
balance, because that's
Mm.
almost impossible. And if you should pick up Grant's book and understand the difference between balance and harmony. But that was one thing that I walked away from Tommy's retreat from. Literally came home and turned off all the notifications on my phone, deleted several apps, including news apps that I was like nose deep in every day, because it's just negative. It's all negative energy.
Yeah.
And becoming more present with my 3 children and my wife. And I literally walk in now, I take my phone, I put it up on the highest, countertop or shelf in our kitchen so that it's harder for me to reach. And I just am present with my family. And now, granted, I only got back from the retreat on Friday of last week, so we're recording this on Tuesday. But I can tell you that the last 4 days of my life have been more meaningful in terms of spending quality time with my family than they have been in a long time. And what Grant writes in his book resonates so well with what I just experienced. So for you to consider him one of your best friends, man, God bless you. You have good people in your life, and I'm very, very happy for you.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey man, I'm very curious about, and I told you off air, man, we're about a 50-person agency spread out amongst several locations, and we've been with a legacy. I don't know if they're one of the oligarchs, probably, that you were talking about, a legacy agency management company using one of their newer technologies. But when I looked at Better Agency, just on your website, just to kind of see what it is, and I've seen things come up in my LinkedIn posts, and I kind of follow you and know what you guys are up to. I'm like, man, how do we make that work for us? And could it even be possible? And we can dig into that in a little bit. But what I'm curious for you to answer for us here is, we talked about, if this were a masterclass, you call it, how can you achieve your agency's definition of success? At what point was that kind of like the epiphany for you? Or was there a pivotal moment where you said, there's a better way to do all this stuff?
Yeah. So I think as I've kind of have evolved a little bit into what I currently, my current subset of beliefs and opinions, I think was somewhat of an evolution. There was always a point in running an agency and working alongside and with and for and all the above insurance agents, or you just feel like you're banging your head against a wall.
Mm.
You're trying to accomplish something. You have this vision in your mind, and you have a destination that you want to go to, but you feel very limited. You feel like you kind of have shackles, and it's not always a technology issue, but that's a lot of times what it boils down to. It's a technology issue. It's a relationship issue with carriers. It's this feeling that you're siloed, you're on an island, and
Yeah.
all of that. And you don't know how to articulate a lot of it. You just know that, man, there's got to be a better way of doing this. There's got to be something that's going to be a cure for some of these different ails that we deal with. And so, without having the words to kind of say, okay, I think it's this, you kind of fall into different things. And then as you go down that rabbit hole a little bit, you go, wow, you know what? This opens up this, like, and I think that this is like you get to the root of things,
Yeah.
and you kind of look beyond just the fruit on the trees and
Yeah.
and the symptoms, and you start to think, okay, well, why? And you kind of go that 7 layers of why. Well, why is this? And how do I measure if this is making a difference or not? And if I do this, how will I know it's successful? Or what's the judgment there? And
Hmm.
there wasn't a set thing. It was just, man, this is got to be done differently. There has to be another way. And if there isn't another way that currently exists, we need to make it exist.
Yeah.
If I relied on everybody else to make it work, then I'm going to have to rely on everybody else to make it work. And so it was kind of more of a going through that for, I'd say, the last 10 years to really saying, okay, this is kind of where I'm landing a little bit, and things are becoming a little bit more clear, and there's a little bit more clarity around this point of view.
Yeah. So what kind of things weren't working for you as an agent and in these different agencies growing up through your career?
Yeah.
What wasn't working? What did you feel like needed to be fixed specifically?
I think there was two things, and they're what you visually see as the symptoms. One was the technology. Felt very
Hmm.
hampered and limited by the technology. You see how other industries are able to utilize technology, and you're able to see how technology, just in and of itself, advancements in technology, can make life easier. And we enjoy this in every area of our own lives as consumers as well.
Yeah.
It gets thrown around the analogy of an Amazon type of experience, and that's not necessarily what I was seeking to have, but I
Yeah.
was seeking to have something that was going to make it easier or better or more pleasant for my customers when it came not just to sales. We always
Hmm.
focus just on sales, and sales is great because it's a sexy, shiny object.
Yeah.
Whereas we have this whole book of business, and we think this is really where our revenue is made and retained. How do we make things just more simple and better and less confusing, a lot less friction? And so there was the technology aspect of it.
Yeah.
The players in the game, they weren't
Hmm.
providing solutions, and when you would go to them for solutions, and this wasn't just a me experience, this was everybody around me saying the same thing
Yeah.
vocally in Facebook groups or at events or here, there, and everywhere. And he just said, man, I really wish like some of these people were partners instead of adversaries.
Yeah.
And that's what it felt like. You go to them with an idea or a solution, and you didn't think it was out of this world. You didn't think that it was out of the norm. And you were usually, it felt like you were banging your head against the wall. Simple
Yeah.
things like, do you think that maybe we could integrate with our quote, our forms on our website? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, can we eliminate some form of duplicate data entry? Something. You didn't feel like you were asking for the moon. You weren't asking for them to make some other widget or whiz bang thing. It was just, can we just make our jobs a little easier? And where it got really frustrating, at least for me, is when you're constantly told no, or you're feeling like there's limitations. That'd be one thing, right? Maybe I'm asking for too much. But then when
Hmm.
you see some of these other carriers that get involved in, and you go to your carriers for help and they tell you no, but then they turn around and you see that they're investing hundreds of $1 millions into a direct to consumer experience, you're thinking, I feel like I'm I'm the wife at home, and you're committing adultery with me.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be one thing if you say, hey, let's have some sort of an open relationship, and we're going to help you too. I probably would feel a little better about that, but it was always told, no, we can't do that, or there's this limitation, or there's we've got to go through all this red tape, but then it's turned around and all I ever saw was the investment made in the things that were in place of the agent.
Yeah.
And so I think that was part of, like, again, the epiphany. So seeing those problems with technology and then with carrier partners, I just never felt like as an independent agent, anybody had my back.
Yeah.
I felt like I was siloed.
Yeah.
And I think this is a feeling that a lot of agents have across the country is there's this feeling, right, wrong, or indifferent, justified or not, there's this feeling like independent agents are on some sort of endangered species list. And if you talk to agents and if they can be vulnerable and transparent, they'll tell you, like, the biggest concerns they have is that their partners are the first partners to go and do things in lieu of the agent.
Yeah.
And I don't want to shoot down their business models. I'm all for it in this free market world. Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. But when you tell me no, so you can go say yes over there, that's where I have a problem.
Yeah.
And so I think those were the pain points that I experienced, was a technology pain point and a partnership pain point, where you just felt like, okay, well, I'm having to go fight this battle and this war on this field, and I'm going to have to wear 30-year-old armor while they're fighting with tanks and drones. We'll see how it works.
Yeah. So you started in 2019. You joined Better Agency as a co-founder.
Yeah.
You at that time, I think from what I was reading before on your LinkedIn bio, that it was they actually had 0 clients back then, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
And now we're in 2022 and there's over 2,500.
Yeah.
What the heck happened? How did you guys, number one, attract so much attention? And number two, what's under the hood of Better Agency that agents are flocking to, that they're leaving their their dinosaur AMSs over?
Yeah. You're right. When I joined on, we had nothing. We were nothing. What excited me was it's like when it is the best way I can explain it. When you feel like you're just getting drugged through the mud for
Yeah.
a long time, and then someone comes to you and they say, there's a better way of doing this.
Yeah.
And there's vision, and you get to be a part of building that vision or telling that story. That was very attractive to me. And it was finally being in a place where we felt like, well, we could operate without the shackles here at the
Yeah.
time, right? Of course, we run into obstacles now, just because
Sure.
this industry, you run into obstacles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but even in that, it was promising because, and it still is promising because, you don't have to settle for how it's been. And so we got to a spot where we were able then to get some customers, and then it just became this, hey, this is our mission, this is our purpose, this is a story we're going to tell, and this is our perspective, this is our point of view. It's not going to be the same point of view that these other entities have.
Yeah.
We're going to do something different. And our company name is Better Agency, and every marketing person, and even myself as a marketing person, you're always told, you don't go for better, you go for different.
Yeah.
You don't just want to be better, you want to be different. And but we named ourselves Better Agency, and so we said, we're going to tell a different story, we're going to have a different value proposition, and we're going to do something a little bit different, and we're going to think about this differently. For us, these different technology pieces, they do very well at what they do and what they're built to do. The problem is that's what they're built to do. They're not built to do anything else. They're built to collect information.
Yeah.
We said, okay, as an, putting on the agency owner hat and the, insurance agent hat, we said, that's not good enough. We have to do something with it. That information has to be actionable, has to do something. We have to play offense with it. And because just as an agency owner, as a business owner, you're spinning all these plates, whether it's HR or training, recruiting, marketing, sales, management, finances, you name it.
Yeah.
We're already spinning all these plates like we're in a circus and we're putting on a performance act. I needed something to come in and say, okay, let me just take that out of your hands. Let's just do it for you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do it. And of course, you have guidance, you have oversight, you have the ability to put your hand on it if you want to, but we know that that's not necessarily the best use of your time. And so it became easy to tell that story, because even as we were telling that story, it felt like a lot of the other people in the marketplace were still putting their heels in and saying, well, this is our story.
Yeah.
So it creates this divide, this polarization, where the lines don't get blurred as much. It was a weird concept. It shouldn't be weird, but it was a weird concept when we said we're going to be CRM and we're going to be AMS, and we're going to have that on one platform as opposed to two.
Yeah.
It's like that just made way more sense to me.
Yeah.
As opposed to the traditional way of doing it, where people just have this AMS and the CRM and they don't work well together. They don't play together. They don't do anything together. You got 2 logins, 2 browsers, 2 tabs, 2 sets of data like that.
And or you're trying to integrate them, and
Yeah.
you've either got to pay extra money to do that and go through heartaches setting all of it up, or,
Yeah. And then you come to find out, as we have found out, that the word integration doesn't mean the same thing. It's not a universal term. People think, well, I just want things to integrate.
Yeah.
That sounds really good, but that's like the integration is a word that means different things to everybody that you ask, every company that you ask. What does it mean? How much data do you do? What do you integrate? How do you integrate? What data goes back and forth? What we found is we said we want to have this vision of, we want to integrate with everybody.
Yeah.
And we still would like to.
Yeah.
But what we've learned is what integration means to us is different than what it means to company A, company B, company C. And then you also find that their technology, because it is also 30, 40 years old in some of these cases, it's like connecting a Tesla to a 1972 Yugo. And you open up the hood of the car and you go, I don't know if we want to integrate with that. From just an architecture standpoint, I know I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but
Yeah.
the way that they've built things, it's like an old house. It's like trying to put a smart device in a 50-year-old, 100-year-old home. Like there's limitations.
Right.
And so data can only go one, they would say, oh, we can only pass data one way, or we can only receive it one. We're not going to push it. We're only going to pull. And they're all different. And we just said, you know what? Here's the thing. We have a vision and a goal. This is our goal. And right now, these other things are in that way. And this is where everybody else has stopped advancing.
Yeah.
We're just going to figure out a way to go and do it. And so no is not the answer. No is not good enough. And that was and that's why I still get excited about things, is because there's a problem. We're going to go try to fix it. We're going to go try to solve it. It's not good enough to just say, no, it's not going to work.
Yeah. I love it. What are your clients' favorite features of Better Agency? What are the things that you constantly hear? Oh man, I am so glad that you guys figured this out, because this is solving this problem for me.
Yeah. So from just a tactical feature standpoint, I think one of the biggest things is, again, it sounds very simple when I explain it. And when I say it, people go, yeah, that's what I want. But it hasn't existed. The ability to get a download from Ivans for new business, and then for your onboarding campaign to automatically fire, where it has cross-selling opportunities where it sees fit, Google reviews, referral opportunities where it's fit. That aspect, the aspect of, my customer was just involved in a claim. They called the insurance company. They didn't call me. Ivans downloads the fact that John Smith has a claim open for auto or home or whatever. And then it triggers the claims campaigns.
Yeah.
Reaching out to the customer. When there's a service and when there's a renewal, and you wrote the policy last year and it was an account of $5,000, auto, home, umbrella, DP3, whatever, account of $5,000. You told the system that, hey, anything over this threshold, I want you to send a certain type of communication. So when it downloads and it has a 23% renewal increase and there was no claims, there's nothing, communicating with the client before they ever get the packet in the mail. Right. Not telling them you're going to reshop it, but just touching base with them.
Yeah.
making yourself available to them so that you can provide it, if need be, a different consultative approach.
Right.
Those things to where I don't have to go and look for it and manually do it. I don't have to let, things aren't going to fall through the cracks. So from a feature standpoint, I'd say it's the ability to take everything that Ivan sends, new business, service, cancellations, pending cancellations, claims, renewals, all of that, and then doing something with it. Creating a plan of offense around it, whether it's for cross-selling opportunities, whether it's for claims or service or renewals, just creating those valuable touch points around people, around the things that are happening that when you have your agency's 30 years old,
Mm-hmm.
the fair assumption that there's a good chunk of accounts.
Yeah.
You having to hire bodies and throwing bodies at the problem becomes very unprofitable very quickly.
Yeah. And one thing, sorry to interrupt you, but one
Yeah.
thing I was thinking about when you were talking about that is we are currently paying people to do some of the things that you're saying on a manual basis, where I would rather use their God-given talents for something better. I mean, to use a good word there. Right.
Exactly. Right. So you have, and this is the way things are in 2022 and beyond.
Yeah.
You got two ways of solving this problem.
Yeah.
You can throw people at it, and depending on what you sell line of business wise and the type of clientele you have, your margins could be already pretty razor thin, with all the other stuff that you got to do. So you could throw bodies at it and reduce that profit margin even more, or wait to get a payback on your customer acquisition. It takes longer.
Yeah.
Or you can utilize technology to free up the talent on your team, put them to a different use, whether it is in field marketing, whether it is in a different customer centric approach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not of the persuasion that you don't need people. You need people. You need good people. You need technology to make your people better. To me, technology is like steroids. So if you're a sports fan, this is how I equate it. Growing up in the California Bay Area, I was a Giants fan, and I readily admit I think Barry Bonds took performance enhancing drugs. Thing is Barry Bonds was an excellent baseball player before any of this came to light.
Yeah.
His performance enhancing drugs allegedly, arguably, made him the greatest baseball player ever. Right. And so that's exactly what technology should do. Technology should take good people and turn them into arguably the best people. Right? And so that is how we view that. People get so caught up on automation, they get so caught up on technology, they really geek out about this stuff. And it's like ones and zeros, and their brain just, they don't stop. They're like grasshoppers. And I'm not of that persuasion. I think you need people, because this is a belly-to-belly business. This is a people-centric business. This is a relationship-driven business. And technology should only be there to give you that extra oomph to make those relationships last longer, to deepen them, to provide real value in those relationships. Value is not telling your customers that daylight savings time is about to happen. Value is not telling your customers that, here's the latest meme we have, or it's not to give you a piece of content on how to winterize your home or how to fry a turkey. That's not necessarily value. Value with technology and automation is giving them the things that they really care about, really helping them protect the things, educating them, providing insight into things that you're thinking about that are things that they wouldn't think about on their own. So your customer, you're in the high net worth niche. You know that your customers probably have wine collections, jewelry collections, art collections. Educating them, providing value, giving them a lifeline. That is what your customers want. If you had $100,000 or whatever art collection plus, I would be really ticked off if you didn't tell me that I need to protect that, right? And so that's an example, right? And that's where automation, that's where technology can really enhance that relationship and provide like value. Like, I need you to tell me. I need you to tell me what I need, because I don't know, and I don't want to just assume that I know. And that's what technology should be doing.
Have you, to that end, have you received feedback from your existing clients that have led to enhancements in the software offering?
Do you mean, do we take feedback from our customers?
Yes,
That's
more
exactly
concisely.
how that's exactly how we build. So we and this is our method. We lead with an idea. Hey, we think that we need to do X. And now in the office next to me is my is our chief technical officer. He will come to us and he'll say, "Go validate that."
Hmm.
And we go validate it. We do research. We ask our customers. We ask people who aren't our customers, "Hey, is this something that's would be beneficial to you?
Yeah.
Yes or no? Why?" Okay, now take us through start to finish. How? What? Help us understand. Because we don't want to just rely on my assumptions or the assumptions of people on our team. We want to rely on we want to validate those things with the people who actually need it to work.
Hmm.
So that's what it is when we have our own idea. Then we have people who are users. And if you're a user of any technology and you're in any sort of community with them, you see this happen on every spectrum. Someone will say, "Man, it'd be really great if X did Y."
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's validate that. Is that something that you just need, or is that something that that would benefit
Right.
more people? And so
Yeah.
we have to get validation on that, because not every feature that request that someone brings is a feature request that we would do. We would be crazy to do that.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
You'd have a smorgasbord of, it'd look like the Encyclopedia Britannica, like you just wouldn't know where to look.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you got to validate those things, and you got to try to figure out what's the best way to do this that's going to serve and help the most amount of people. Now, there are some things that are just no-brainers, and we take the no-brainers, but we also have customers who have said, "You know what? I'm kind of a rare bird. Like the way that I do stuff in my agency, I recognize that nobody else is going to do that."
Yeah.
And there, that becomes a much easier, like, "Hey, I don't know that we're going to do
Yeah.
that thing."
I appreciate you admitting that, because I don't think we're going to implement that. Yeah.
Yeah. That really makes my job easier to tell you that, no,
Yeah.
we're not going to do that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, Man, I could go so many different other places, but and I do want to. I'll ask you in a little bit. Actionable steps, things that people can take. But I do selfishly, and I told you this before.
Mhm.
For somebody like me that's got a larger agency, not huge, but larger, with an AMS that we've been on for, or at least the company, that AMS for 30 years, newer version of technology, but we feel like it would be a monument. I mean, when I think like, oh man, I look at Better Agency and I'm like, dude, I want me some of that. That looks awesome. But then my very next thought is, my technology department would kill me, because it seems like that would probably be a massive undertaking. What do you say to people like me?
So my answer, I'm going to speak with a little bit of future tense, knowing where I know we're going.
Yeah.
So there's two things that we really have to evaluate, and this is true for anybody, whether it's a 30-year agency, a 3-year agency, or a 3-month agency.
Mm.
The more data you have, the more likely that the data that you have needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
Just kind of the thing, right?
Yep.
The way that a lot of these systems format data and have data, a lot of times it's incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to put it. It's not very
Mm-hmm.
clean. And so one of the things that we have to do, and one of the things that we do to try to uh, figure that, because our system relies on data to make things work. If you bring over data that doesn't work, you're not going to have a good experience.
Yeah.
You bring over data where you've got 1,400 John Smiths, all with the same 5551212 number, and Mickey@mouse.com is the email. Like, things aren't going to go well.
Yeah.
It's just a reality, right?
Yeah.
It's things have to be, 1 + 1 has to equal 2.
Right.
So what we would do in that case is we would always say, okay, let's clean up your data. Let's make this data actionable.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the redundancies. Let's merge the stuff. And so that's the first thing we would do. Now, one of the things that we've recognized, again, one of those, why does everybody do this type of things, is all the different systems all export data differently.
Mm-hmm.
And switching data, for a lot of people, they feel that pain point the same one that you're feeling. And there you go, I don't want to do that because this
Yeah.
looks and sounds painful. This is going to take 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
And under the current way of doing stuff with AMS data? Yeah, it does. It takes a while because the data is horrendous.
Yeah.
It has to be clean. It has to be corrected.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we do is, and we are doing, is our product team says, you know what? We know that company A exports data like this. Let's build something custom that's going to make the data just do all the stuff and clean it and do it automatically so that we don't have to throw bodies at that. We shouldn't have to throw bodies at that. So where instead of taking 6 months, maybe it takes 6 days. And let's make onboarding easy for people to where they and their team and anybody that's important on their team and they're important to their success can go through, get trained, can figure this out, can learn. They can have some hand holding. And let's say, because we find that that's kind of a gap, honestly, in a lot of the industry. Is there's not a lot of good hand holding, for lack of a better term. People are just saying, okay, here's your logins, credentials, go for it. And then we wonder why agents only use 10% of their systems that they have.
Right.
So the more data you have, the more it's going to take to say, okay, we got to make sure that the data here is good. And because we have to make it work. And so that's what we do. That's what we're focused on. That's part of the problems that we're trying to solve is data hygiene, data migration, making it simple. Are we there yet? Are we there? Is it what we want? No, it's not there. It's not where we want it yet, but it will be very, very soon. And that's what we fight for. And that's what we're doing. And so we're excited for that. And what we would tell any agency who's like, hey, I've been on this for 30 years is, well, let's get to the why. Like, why are we doing this? Well, the system I have doesn't do X, Y, and Z. Okay, well, what is X, Y, and Z going to do for you? And why is that important to you? And really trying to get beyond just the attraction model of like, oh, I want that, but more like, okay, well, why do you want that? And what is that going to do for you? And trying to ask different questions to get to other things to where it could get to a spot where we're like, you know what? You should probably stay put. Or it's, you know what? You came and said this was the problem that you were trying to solve. We actually think, and we want your agreement on this, that your problem is actually this. Like, you tell me that you want done for you. You tell me that you want to cross-sell more of your monoline accounts, or you want to try to add more umbrella to everybody with auto, whatever the case is. Right? Cross-selling. You thought that was the problem, but really your problem is that you don't have any real process in place, a sales process.
Yeah.
And that's why we think now we need to start talking more about this stuff. And yes, that stuff's, we'll talk about that, but we really should start talking about this stuff, because it's not enough to just say, oh, here you go. Here's some campaigns. Here's some technology. Go have fun. That'll be short-lived. That doesn't bring you to agency success. It's really trying to correct these other pillars that you have, these other things that you need when it comes to a streamlined process around technology. And so once we get to that, the heart of that is where we can really start to make magic happen and say, okay, this is what you need to be thinking, whether it's in our platform or not. I mean, candidly speaking, we want to make it work on our platform, but there are use cases where we go, I don't think this is really the best thing for you. You should probably think about X.
Yeah. And I can almost guarantee you that most of the AMSs out there would never say that, because they just want your business and they're not necessarily looking out for you. I'm not saying all of them, but there's plenty of them. And I've experienced it myself. I can tell when I'm just being corralled into something that is not necessarily going to fit my agency.
A happy, our one of the philosophies we live by is a happy ex-customer or ex-prospect is better than a disgruntled customer.
Ooh, I love that. Say that again.
An unhappy customer or an unhappy prospect is much better. I'm sorry, a happy customer or happy ex. I gotta go. A happy ex-customer or a happy prospect is much better than a disgruntled customer. I'd much rather you like us and say no than to hate us and say yes.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, as we look at kind of the landscape of insurance technology and we talk to people and we hear the stories, this seems to be the thing that we see a lot is these companies have a lot of disgruntled, unhappy customers when they probably should have said no or disqualified them. Right? There's no one size fits all, but it can't be.
Sure.
Everyone's right. So you can have some best practices, you can have some models, but the way that you do business in Atlanta is much different than the way that someone does business in Phoenix or
Sure.
in Wildfire, California. Like there's just differences and different
Yeah.
processes, different workflows. So it's all about making it to where your customers are excited to be with you, that they want to be with you. And that's going to be the best advocacy you have. Why you asked earlier, why have we grown? How have we grown? Part of it is that for the most part, we try, right? No one's perfect. We try to make our customers really happy. And if
Yeah.
you make your customers really happy, it's amazing what happens. Like the marketing just gets a lot easier.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that works.
Yeah. You have a whole sales team of people who don't actually work for you.
Yeah.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the rapid fire round, I'm curious. Yeah, I've heard you talk about use cases for personal lines a lot. Does Better Agency handle commercial lines as well?
Yeah. So I'll speak to the now and I'll speak to where we're going. So for the right now, if you're a commercial lines agent who writes a lot of standard admitted stuff,
Mhm.
perfect. It's great. Works perfectly. If you write with your traditional carriers and they download and you write your BOPs and your commercial
Yeah.
autos and cyber, even any of that stuff,
Yeah.
works great. Where right now we are working towards, we're not, I would say, if you're going back to that happy person who said no,
Yeah.
if you're someone who's like very heavy on E&S,
Mhm.
or while we have Accord forms and we do that, if you're like, well, Nick, we write like we issue like 100 certs a day.
Yeah.
um I would say, you know what, give it about 6 months.
Okay. Okay.
Let's
Yeah,
check back.
fair.
Let's check back in 6 months.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, look, I write with these 4 or 5 carriers that all
Yeah.
do downloads and our workflows are pretty easy, and I'm not writing a lot of middle market stuff, but I'd say this is a great product for you.
Awesome.
If you do the other stuff, let's talk again in 6 months and see where the progress is at.
Okay. That's good. Personally, it sounds like I'm going to be a 6-month guy because we
Yeah,
do our fair share of E&S,
yeah.
and we represent a lot of markets.
We got some cool stuff and some cool discussions that are happening right now.
Yeah.
But those are discussions, and
Yeah.
so trying to figure that out. We think that we wanted to tackle personal lines first. We wanted
Yeah.
to get into the standard commercial stuff first. Like we feel like that represented 80% of the industry, and you got to,
Yeah.
and we felt like that was a good strategy to start with.
Sure.
Then we said, okay, now we really need to start making advancements on the more tricky stuff, on the
Yeah.
E&S stuff, because that makes up the other, the people who do a ton of agency bill stuff, the people that do a
Yes.
lot of premium financing, a lot of subs, and a lot of like, that's the 20% that we got to go now solve for.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I look forward to keeping in touch with you after this because I would love to be able to give you feedback on our experience and how that might, if you want it,
Yeah.
like how that could help you, or you, whether it's you or somebody on your team, develop your product.
Yeah.
Because selfishly, like I'm super, super curious to see if this could be something that would work for us.
Yeah.
So, anybody out there listening who's an employee of my current agency management system,
We didn't name any names. We're good,
no,
which
I
is
didn't
good
name any
because
names.
I like to I like to poke the bear every once in a while. So
Yeah.
sometimes I let it slip intentionally, but I think we've
Yeah.
been good.
No, it's good. It's good. Love it. Let's get into the rapid fire real quick.
Let's do it.
And one piece of technology or software you can't live without, but you can't say your phone because everybody says their phone, unless it's an
Yeah.
app that's very specific.
Does it have to be one? Because I feel like there's a lot that are ranked
Oh,
one,
no.
1A, 1B.
Give me a couple.
So Slack and Zoom, I think,
Okay.
are kind of like table stakes. But for me, being in the role that I'm in and what I do, for me, I love Adobe products, Adobe the company. So for me, we do a lot of video. So like
Yeah.
if I don't have a way of editing video, that's for me. So I use Adobe Premiere.
Awesome.
I'd be kind of lost without it, and putting out content.
Yeah. Awesome. I appreciate that. I wonder how many other people are using Adobe Premiere in agencies. When did you, because like I'm a Mac guy, so I've been hooked to Final Cut Pro for a long time. Did you start using Premiere
I
a long time ago?
I started making videos when I was about 13 years old. The year was probably 1996, somewhere around
And
there.
Adobe Premiere was
Yep.
One of the only
Yeah.
ones around at that time.
Yeah. Adobe was a lot smaller than it is now, but yeah.
Yeah.
And, but like agency owners will over the years, like, hey, I want to start any video. And I always tell them, don't, you shouldn't go hire somebody for that. Your time is way more valuable than that. Like go hire some,
Yeah. Yeah.
why would you do that?
But you like editing, right?
It's what right. So like, some
Dude,
people
we're
went and played
kindred spirits. I love editing video.
some people went and learned how to play golf, and some people went and learned how to get a different hobby. Like this was mine. And so like
Yeah.
for me to make content and video and edit and all that stuff, I mean, I can do it like that.
Yeah.
That's not, you'd have better success and better luck going and learning Mandarin. Like it'd be a waste of your time. Go hire somebody for that. Why would you do that? Unless you know how to do it, right? Unless you know how to do it. Like
yeah, unless you're crazy like us. Yeah.
if I needed to go like play in a golf tournament, I'm gonna hire a ringer. Like that's the same way to do it, right?
I love it. I love it. What's one book that you're reading now, or one that you've read recently that you love and you want to share with folks?
One of my favorite books is a very simplistic book, but I really like it. I read it every year, and I'm actually just got done reading it again. Is one called Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. Obviously Awesome. It take you a day, maybe two, depending on your reading level. I went to public school in California, so it takes me about 3 days. But Obviously Awesome. It's a great book. It's a marketing book. It's kind of general, but it's all about how to position yourself and your company and your marketing message.
Who's it by again?
April Dunford.
April Dunford. We'll put it in the show notes, but
yeah,
I'm
it's
just
a great book.
making a note for myself. Awesome. And how about a piece of advice that you would give to younger Nick?
Don't be an idiot. No. Like sound like my dad. Piece of advice. I think the best piece of advice that I ever got is probably the advice I'd give is ride the wave. Never too high. You don't ever want to be too high. You don't want to be too low. Ride the wave. People ask me all the time, and they've asked me, and I default to it. They go, "What's next here? What's that?" I always say, "You know what? I'm just riding the wave." And I'll be here no matter where the wave goes.
Yeah.
And so that's to me is I think we get, and it's very easy to say, to get locked in on something, whether it's a certain ambition or a goal or a directive. And I just think, you know what? Try easier and ride the wave. Do less, ride the wave, and wherever it takes you is where it takes you. I'm not saying don't be strategic, don't be thoughtful, don't be wise.
Yeah.
But there's a place where you just got to say, wherever we go, we're gonna get there. So that's probably the best advice. That's probably advice that I try to think about when I get really like in my head a little bit. It's just ride the wave, baby.
Love it, man. Very sage advice. I love it. And finally, one piece of advice or actionable step for our audience as it relates to our discussion today and figuring out, how they can better achieve their agency's definition of success.
I think you got to figure out, to me, agency success really lays on 3 pillars. I think, and I think we talked a little bit about
this. You mentioned pillars before. I'm curious.
Well, for me, I think the pillars are, you need to have, and it's tactical advice, right? This is a step below strategic advice, but the tactical advice is you do need to have your fitting good technology. You need to have a process for that. I think you need that. That's kind of like the basic, right? You need to be able to make your time useful, be efficient. But I think the other 2 pillars that are really important is you need to have some sense of community. I can't tell you the amount of knowledge, insights, benefit that I've had from community, from being around people who were like me, who were above me, who were underneath me, mentor mentee type relationship. Being in a community where you can actually grow in the areas that you feel like you're deficient, or you can get advice, or you can have people that you could talk to, you could trust, that you could interlock with people and have collaboration, I think
Yeah.
is a key to success. I think if the people that just shut themselves off from that and are hermits and just try to figure it out on your own, why? Your
Yeah.
success is amplified so much more and goes so much faster when you have community.
Yeah.
And there's people who can help you, and there are people that you can help, right? I
Yeah.
think that's really pivotal. I think the other thing is education. I think always like striving to improve what you know and how you know it, and where you're going and how you're going to get there. I think education and educating yourself on what, and it could be anything as very ground level as I want to be the best darn person when it comes to cyber forms, right?
Yeah.
And learning and reading content. Like there's that.
Yeah.
Then there's the how do I become a better business owner? How do I move from this really tactical way of thinking to more of a strategic way of thinking and improving myself
Mhm.
and learning, whether it's by example or from people in my community or just resources that I have, or whether it is an ancillary fringe thing like sales and marketing or culture, or any of those things. I think that
Yeah.
stuff is good. You mentioned you were reading Grant's book, stuff like that, taking in stuff to improve yourself and to
Yeah.
take steps forward. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yes.
And so
That's what my dad
you
always
have
said.
to green things that are alive grow.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And so, constantly improving yourself and self-improvement, I think, is something, and those things are vague, right? Technology
Yeah.
is kind of a little less vague, but when you talk about community and talk about education, you could put whatever fits in those baskets for you. You just got to find it. And that stuff will, I think, is more universal. It doesn't matter if you are a personal lines agent, doesn't matter if you write non-standard auto only, it doesn't matter if you write E&S, it doesn't matter if you are middle market, it doesn't matter where you're at. Those three things I think are going to be pivotal to your agency's success.
I love it, man. That is super actionable.
Yeah.
I mean, just thinking about each one of those pillars, like I could go sit down and right now and make a list of what technology do I need? Like not
Right.
brands, but like what
Right.
are the processes? What's the technology
Yeah.
stack that's going to set us up for success?
And that's important that you mentioned that. And I forgive me for not making that even more clear if people were confused by that, is remove the logos.
Yeah.
Get on a piece of paper and with a little box and
Yeah.
say, okay, here's the journey. Here's
Yeah.
where I
Yeah.
need to go. Right
Yeah.
now, what do I need? It's going to help facilitate that. For some people, as an example, they'll say, I need a CRM
Yeah.
because I need to do this. And some people will say, nah, I don't need a CRM. Right now, validate that. But as an example, right?
Right.
As an example,
Yeah.
like that technology is could be very different for everybody.
Yeah.
There'll be probably some constants like, hey, you probably need a phone. Um, you need email. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's probably a good thing. But it is brandless, it's logoless, and so
Yeah.
it's a matter of getting into your process. Technology, I think, can be replaced with processes. Having clear, defined processes that can be repeatable, that you can articulate, that you can train on. It's brandless, it's logoless, it's more about your
Yeah.
process than anything. And technology is just a means, it's just a vehicle. But the
Yeah.
process is kind of the destination and the gas that you get there with.
And you know what I would say too, based on what you just said, like the thinking of an analogy for that, my wife just packed up to go to Rhode Island for so my youngest daughter, her spring break is this week, but our older kids already had there. So the two of them are going up to Rhode Island where my wife grew up. We're building a house up there now, so they're checking on that. And the process of packing is kind of like, because I've heard it the last couple of days, like especially for my daughter, what should I pack? Well, I don't know. I mean, like, what are we doing? You know, similarly, even on the retreat that I just went on, I was like, hey, be sure to pack some hiking boots because we're actually going to go walk part of the Appalachian Trail. You know, be sure to pack like this, that, and the other.
That's where riding the wave becomes bad. So the advice I gave you wouldn't work there, because for me, I would just take a duffel bag and a couple of things. But if I'm going to the snow, that can work out really horrendously for me.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love it. No, it's awesome, man. I love it. Very actionable advice. Um, Nick, if people want to get more of you in their life, What's the best place for them to find you online?
The doctor. You want to go to the doctor and have them prescribe something that says maybe some maybe some medicine that were like it changes that. But no, I'd say if 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 people want to get more of that, I would say our YouTube channel is probably an excellent resource for that. I post content to our YouTube channel every single week.
Awesome.
We do a live show every single week with live audience where people can come ask questions. We can talk about stuff. It's very improv. I don't know what people are going to ask. We just talk about things. There's that.
You're brave.
We have a whole right live TV. It's a blessing and a curse, right? So we do that, and then we also put out a lot of recorded content that you can get resources on. We talk probably only 10%, 15% about better agency. We talk about 85, 90% of the time, it's about agency success. So things that have nothing to do with what we do, but are all about helping agents have success, because we believe that educating agents to do that is a very good thing. And so I would say our YouTube channel at Better Agency.
Yeah. Kindred spirits there too, man. That's what I'm trying to do with this podcast, and is really just kind of giving back to, the industry that I feel like has given so much to me over the years. And so I really appreciate that attitude. I think we need more of that in this industry. And my hat's off to you, sir, for doing that. Nick, it's been fantastic having you on the show. One last question I forgot to ask you that's super important. If you were to choose right now between eating hot soup or gourmet hot chocolate and marshmallows, what would you choose?
Well, soup is disgusting. So this is very easy for me. I have an adverse feeling towards soup because I like stew. I like chowder. I gotta be able to put my teeth in it. I don't want broth. Don't give me broth. Like if I'm gonna eat food, I feel like soup is deceptive and manipulative. I feel like it's tricking me. Don't give me soup. I like bisque. Bisque is good, but it's gotta have some texture to it. It's gotta have some thickness to it. So for me, that's an easy one. It's chocolate with marshmallows, because at least I know I'm drinking like coffee or hot chocolate.
Okay. Hot chocolate marshmallows it is, sir. I'm going to send you a package from Mountain Mallow. They're out of Colorado, and my wife and I found them a few years ago when we were out in Vail. And we've sent it to guests and other, we actually sent it to all of our employees this year, and they loved it. It was fantastic.
Wow. My kids ask for chocolate milk at least twice a day. So they'll probably get their hands on it long before I will, but
heck yeah, absolutely. I'll get your address off air, but for our guests, if you guys want to get some for yourselves, you can get 15% off when you go to checkout. Use code GROWBIG, as in grow big or go home. So mountainmallow.com is where you get that, grow big. Nick, it's been absolutely fantastic pleasure having you on today. Stick around for a second for me. But until next time, folks, for you out there listening, grow big or go home. Take care.